That. Don't peel them off.
I mean, I asked you earlier on, what's it like when you get back on that bike? Because the question I asked you earlier was, when you get back on that bike, do you get memories of sitting on the grid of one of those races?
The bike just feels the same. It just brings back a lot of good memories. Because Cole that's got the bike, he was there at the time as well, so we had a lot of good laughs and stuff.
And is the bike in exactly the same state as it was when you raced it?
Pretty much, aye. It's got a bit more power now, I think. Lee Johnson raced it at the Manx Classic Superbike race last year, but it's bits of it anyway. But it's pretty much the same bike.
Yeah. And does it still feel fast?
It still feels fast. Aye.
How much power are we talking here?
I think it's about 160 horsepower or something.
That's enough for most people.
Well, it's fast enough for.
So let's talk about power and the Isle of Man. What do you think the ideal power is at the Isle of Man, or is it more about drivability?
That's a good question. Sometimes it's more fun riding a bike that's not too powerful. Like Michael Rutter was telling me, he really struggles to see now riding super bikes. He can ride super twins and smaller bikes, but when he rides a super bike, his eyesight is not good enough so it shows you how fast they are. Because his eyes are better than mine, probably.
Yeah, and Alex talked about top speed down the Sulby Straight. What top speed do you reckon you were getting out of that down Sulby?
Probably close to 200 mile an hour. Because it's smooth now, like Alex says. I mean, even now the TT's miles smoother now than it was in my day, and it was miles smoother when I raced there than Alex's day. So it's getting a lot smoother all the time, which I don't think really makes it any safer. I think sometimes makes it more dangerous. I think making it smoother.
Yeah, when you see what Peter Hickman's doing now, 136, how much faster do you think you can go here?
I think they'll keep going quicker because the electronics will get better. I mean, the fast boys just now are switching all the electronics off at the Isle of Man because it slows them down too much. But the electronics are obviously the way to manage that much power. So when they get them a bit sorted out a bit better, I think they'll go quicker because of that.
I mean, there has to be a limit at some point there, doesn't there?
Well, I've been saying that forever, I think.
Yeah.
Just keep.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take you right back now. So, of course, you followed your father into racing. Your father, Bill, he won the 1976 TT, and I was talking earlier on about our next superstar, which we'll have up on stage in a little while. And of course, you were there at the same time as what I was talking about in '75, just as a child, watching him, and because you were there obviously with your dad. So what are your memories of watching your dad race? Did you think that one day you would be out there doing it as well?
When you're young, you don't realise how dangerous the Isle of Man is. You just think your dad's out doing his best. You want him to win, but it is just. I don't think unless you've ridden a bike around there, you don't realise how dangerous it is really. Just one lack of concentration and your mind wanders or something. So it is a bit mad really. When you get older, you realise how mad it is.
So when you were out there racing, were you aware of the dangers, or were you just focused totally on what you were doing?
No, I think everybody's aware of the dangers when you're riding. You try and block it out, you just think it won't happen to you, but I think everybody's a nervous wreck has ever raced around the Isle of Man. I wouldn't believe you if you said you weren't a nervous wreck and absolutely shitting yourself. I think everybody does. I know I certainly did.
I know, having been out there and I've pitied for somebody, it's way, way worse watching somebody, particularly somebody that you know and care about, than it is doing it yourself.
I would imagine it would be, aye, definitely.
You didn't think that were your dad. Okay, so one of your greatest achievements, Ian, was winning both the Superbike and Supersport Championship in the same year. That must have been really hard.
It's really hard riding different bikes in the same day, because whatever bike you jump on, the braking points are wrong and the tyres are different levels of grip, and so it's really hard to ride two bikes really well in the same day.
So which would you rather like, Superbike or Supersport?
I think riding the superbike made you a better super sport rider, and I think riding the super sport bike probably slowed you down a wee bit on the big bike. I think it's always easier to ride the slower bikes.
Yeah, I think probably most people agree with that. You retired in 2001, but you still have the odd go. And in 2015, you raced for Phase 1, the really professional setup in the endurance racing. What are your memories of racing with Phase 1?
Oh, I had good fun with Phase 1. The first time I raced, I couldn't believe how fast everybody was going at night.
How were you teamed with you?
I was teammate with Stefan Mertens, so me and him were about the same during the day, but at night he was absolutely miles quicker than me. And we're sitting, I wasn't used to having a teammate who's trying to help you, because normally you're trying to beat your teammate, you don't tell them stuff, but I quite like that in endurance racing where you're actually trying to help your teammate. And he sat down with me and saying why it was so crap at night, and he said you just got to trust yourself, because I didn't know where to brake. I was losing all my braking markers and my turn-in points and stuff because I was going too slow. And he says, you just got to trust yourself. You know where to brake, you know where to turn in. I said, I can't see, it's dark. But he says, no, you still just got to do it. Just got to trust yourself. So I got away with that for about 3 laps and then went flying across the grass doing about 150 mile an hour. So, just it comes to you eventually, but it takes a lot of practice to go as quick at night when you can't see a thing, is it? Because I thought there'd be lights. I thought there'd be lights like this all around the circuit, and the lights in the bike, I thought they'd be really good. I'm hitting the lights thinking, I don't even think they're switched on. They're crap, I can't see a thing. It's very difficult to see.
I can imagine if somebody goes off in front of you, it must be really distracting because you're thinking, well, is that where the racetrack's gone? Have I got it wrong? I guess it must be really hard. A bit like driving in the fog.
The thing I found hardest was passing people, because if you're passing somebody, you look at the apex of the corner, you're looking by the person. So I'd come up behind somebody that I could pass, no bother in the daylight, but at night I just couldn't see where the corner was. I was just hesitating, and anybody that rides a bike knows that the minute you hesitate, you're lost. You're nowhere. So, but we ended up winning the championship, so I must have got my finger out a wee bit.
Absolutely. Back to the Isle of Man now. I've been lucky enough to race in the Isle of Man. I did it on a Super Twin, 80 brake horsepower, 140, maybe 150 on the run down from there. But of course, many people in this room haven't been as fortunate as me, but none of us have any idea what's it like when you're there in Glencountry Road, you sat on top of a 200 mile an hour super bike and you're getting that tap on the shoulder. What is it like?
Oh, it's horrible. It's just the most nervous. I've never been that nervous or that tense. I couldn't wait to retire for not racing at the Isle of Man. I couldn't wait to think I'm just going to go and sit in the bank and watch and not have to do this. So I'm glad I've done it, but I never would want to do it again.
And I guess your good lady feels exactly the same.
She knows how bad tempered I get with them. Try it. So she's glad I'm retired.
Okay, right. I think we're going to move on to our next guest. So, big round of applause, please, for Ian Simpson.
Thanks very much.
Okay, our next guest. I do hope he's here because when he came earlier, there's nobody in the room. But this guy has been a works rider for Kawasaki, Suzuki, Honda, and Norton. He's won 3 Grand Prix. He rode arguably against some of the greatest riders in history, including Barry Sheene, Hailwood and Agostini. He's won multiple times at the Oliver's Mountains. He's won the Macau Grand Prix, and he's won the TT no less than 7 times. So a massive round of applause, please, for Mick Grant. Mick, we had a chat this morning. It's the first time I've seen you many times. I've seen your podcasts, I've seen you on the TV, obviously multiple times, but never ever met you. And this morning you stood there and chatted to me, a guy that you've never met before, for going to be half an hour. I want to take you about 48 years, Mick. It was a hot Friday afternoon. It was June in 1975. And you were on your way to breaking, I hope I got this right, the lap record and winning the senior TT. And you tore past, you didn't know this, but you tore past a spotty 16-year-old who had sat transfixed on the banking of the bungalow. You were on the big green meanie, and my memories of the day will never leave me. Mick, what have you done to me, mate?
Yeah, it was the Isle of Man's a really crazy place. In 1975, I won the senior, and at that particular time, God bless the ACU, but they had this outdated rule where you got to stop the bike.
Hold it close.
You got to stop the bike 20 minutes before the start, and so the Waterkill 500 3-cylinder, I went down to Quarterbridge, knocked it off, and it seized. And
in that race?
And it was a damn horrible day. And I just thought, sod it, I'm not going to walk back. So I dropped the clutch and got the thing, it was tight. I got it going. And I was just going to do a steady lap rather than walk back. And I got a signal towards the end saying I was on the leaderboard. So it was just crazy, but I actually went and won it. 76, I could have won the race without sounding big-headed. I could have won the race at any speed I wanted on the 750, and the clutch went on the line. It's an most amazing and crazy place to race at. We go to 75 to the race. Over the years, you've got to be very careful that when you read press reports about how good you are, just wait and don't believe half of it, because most of it's bullshit. And I've had lots of accolades over the years, but the one that actually sticks in my mind more than any is that apparently I led the first lap, and then I think the second lap I broke Aylwood's lap record. Yeah. And Mike was in the ground in the press box on the grandstand with his mentor, a guy called Ted McCauley. It's all right. Is this working?
Is it okay? Yeah. I mean, would you better use this mic? I don't know. No. Okay. If you can hear, that's okay. If you can't hear, just shout.
Okay. So Mike's in the grandstand with Ted McCauley, and Peter Neal, who was the commentator at the time, said Mick Grant has just beaten Mike Aylwood's 8-year-old lap record, and in fairness it should have been beaten before. I was just the lucky guy to do it. And of all the accolades you've had all my life, Aylwood turned to Ted McCauley and said, "The bastard." And that means a lot to me.
Just quickly on that one, what are your memories of Mike apart from that?
It was before my time, and when he came back to the TT, I said, why are you doing it?
I guess you were thinking this could go horribly wrong for him.
It's going to go horribly wrong, and had Mike hurt himself, it would have done the TT a lot of damage. And there's a lovely little story where halfway through practice, he was on the Marlboro Yamaha, I was on the 750 Kawasaki. And halfway through practice, myself and Pat Hennon were quickest, doing about 113 miles an hour, but more or less close together. And Mike was about 109. And he came up to me on the Wednesday afternoon and said, "Look, can I ask a big favour?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "Can we do a lap together?" And like for me, that was like God asking, explain the Bible. I was absolutely petrified. So we set off together from the start. And at that time,
This is in practice, yeah?
This in practice, and the Thursday afternoon practice. At that particular time, I was good from the start to Ramsey. From Ramsey to the bungalow, I was completely useless. And I was exceptionally quick from the bungalow to the start. You put the three together, it was a good lap. Yeah. So I followed Mike all the way to Ramsey, and he was pretty well right. There's just one place coming after Grieber Castle where he was wrong, and that was because that put some roadworks, some bumps in the road, and we rode round it. And when he last rode there, he rode. So that was it. And to my horror, as we're going up to Ramsey Hairpin, he pulled over and waved me past on my worst bit. And if you'd have asked me my name, I would get that nervous, I couldn't have told you. I made a complete cock-up of it going over the mountain. And we got back to the end, and he says, thanks for that. He said, what am I doing wrong? I said, well, your corner speed's okay. I said, but the last time you rode in 68, the bikes didn't have any brakes. They've got these big drum brakes that didn't work. I said, you're braking 30 yards too early everywhere. I said, other than that, your lines are perfect. Oh, he says, thanks for that. He says, by the way, he says, his exact words, excuse me, he said, how the fuck you got round at that speed, I don't know. He said, because you're all over the shop. And I just couldn't tell him at the time. And Mike being Mike, the next practice, he was up with us, 113. But a lovely fella. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Well, I'm going to take you back a bit further. And yeah, well, I hope this is okay because it sounds very echoey. I want you to tell me about Mr. Lum. Mr. Lum and the ice cream van. A bit different from the TT.
I've got a sister, and she's 9 years younger than me. She's obsessed with horses. I've always been obsessed with motorbikes. And there's a sort of 12-year-old. I had a pal called Chris Bradley. And Chris's dad had a Tiger 80, which for people that know, it's a 350 Triumph from 1930s. And we used to drain fuel out of his car and put it in the Tiger and run it round. And one of the very first times I rode it, I was going to, this got Blacker Lane up at Middlestown, a very narrow lane. I had no idea what I'd on this thing, it was thumping away.
How old are you, Mick?
About 11. I had no idea what this thing was going to do. And I'm going at this little sea road, and Mr. Lum in his ice cream van's coming towards me. Mr. Lum is still going. Well, maybe he isn't, but his business is. I shit myself. And I rolled off into the grass, and that was my very, very first crash ever on a motorbike. I've made up for it since, mind.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that was year 11 then. So when and how did you realise that you could actually race a motorbike?
Funnily enough, the same Mr. Bradley, he was into motorsport, and he took it to Oliver's Mount at Scarborough. And I remember watching Jeff Duke, and actually a very young Mike Aylward on a 250 Works Mondial. And I just thought, oh, I'd love to have a go at that. And that's where it all came from, Oliver's Mount. And that's, if I can jump on a wee bit, that's why about 4 years ago when Oliver's Mount went down and it was going to be no more, that we actually, me and Eddie Roberts got hold of it and brought it back, and luckily it's still going again. I just love the place. But Oliver's Mount started me racing, and all I wanted to do was just, even at a club event, just have a little ride round there. And I had a ride round, and then I wanted to do a national, and then throughout my career, never ever thought I want to be world champion. I've always done little steps. You know, I'd want to win, like I'd win a national race, and then you want to win a bit, and you keep on going, and you make the objective you're trying to get to. I do them in small steps, and I've always done that. But yeah, Scarborough started me off.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people here have ever been to Scarborough. If they haven't been to Scarborough to watch or race there, you need to go. And I want at this point a round of applause for Mick Grant, because without Mick Grant, Scarborough would not get still going. So back to some of the bikes that you've ridden. You've ridden some amazing bikes over the years. So of all of those, Mick, which one stands out in your mind, good or bad, and why?
You'd be ever so surprised. You'd expect me to say maybe the Kawasaki or the XR69, but no. The best bike of all time was the 350 Yamaha. When it first came out with a dry clutch, 6-speed, that was an unbelievable bit of kit. And you could get it out of the crate from Japan. You could go and win national races on it. Amazing bit of kit. And the nice thing was that in those days when I was a privateer, I had a transit van, I had a caravan, I had a 250 and 350. Incidentally, paid for out of winnings, which you can't do today. And I went and did what I wanted to do. I could race at Brands Hatch, go to Mallory Park, get paid. I could go and do a couple of Grand Prix, get paid. Just a fabulous time, and there was no bullshit with sponsorship. You just went and did what you wanted to do.
That's fabulous. So this is a question really which I think all of you could answer, because you all have had tremendous success at the Isle of Man. And the question that I've got is, the Isle of Man, does it require a special person or rider to be able to master it?
When I was running, I went to team management after a race, and it all became clear then, because all you need is want. You want to do something. I mean, when I did the TT and Alex and Ian, it was actually commercially usable to sell motorbikes. I don't think it is anymore. And for me to make a living at it, I had to do the Isle of Man. I used to enjoy it once I finished, not when I was doing it. I mean, can you imagine the average guy in the street? I mean, every time I went to the Isle of Man, we used to do Brands Hatch Superbike on the bank holiday Monday. I'd have an aeroplane waiting on the grass strip behind, and without taking the leathers off, I'd fly to the Isle of Man, get a taxi, and I'd be first down the road on the Monday night on my second Superbike. But imagine going to the average guy in the street and saying to him, which I said to myself every time I went over there, you be careful, don't be coming back in a box. It was that sort of a place. But the feeling you get from when you're going around there, and you can actually, when you master it, and the thing is in a two-wheel drift everywhere, and you're getting all your markers and all your apexes, it's the most amazing feeling.
The question on that, did you ever do a perfect lap?